Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes,
on
go
the
ahead.
point of, I suppose, a procedural point, so maybe there's a point of privilege. For 4.47, before Ms. King gives any evidence, I just want us to get a clarity with respect to the ambit of that which is being questioned. The 4.45 and 4.47 make references to the Auditor General not being able to verify that houses approved to be built or repaired were completed. And in 8 cases, no houses were built, and it would appear that money for construction of the houses may have been paid. I just wanted to, what I'm not seeing in the report is any evidence or any indication of the time frame within which those particular developments were discovered. In other words, are those 8 houses dealing with the period 2007 to 2018, or is it somewhere in between there? And if it is the latter, where specifically? If you know this, sir, I would be happy to get the benefit of an understanding.
No, I think Minister Simmons, you've raised a very important question. That, in fact, constitutes part of what I would want to ascertain myself, because this report does stretch over some considerable period. And in fact, Ms. King herself may not be able to speak to some aspects of it. And if that's the case, we will determine that, as you say, and she will say. I just wanted to start for Ms. King, for the record, just to, Mrs. Minister Simmons, just to put her name and present position, how long you've been at it, just for a matter of record for the Hansard.
My name is Sonia King. I'm the Acting Director of the Urban Development Commission, and that post would have started in June of 2019. 2019.
All right, thank you.
You're
now,
welcome.
Mr. Trotman, are you online with us?
Yes, Chair, I'm online.
All right, good afternoon to you. Can you give us any greater specificity as to the period of which we speak? There's a pretty wide range of years, maybe going back as far as 2013, 2014, 2015. Now, in 4.45, as Mr. Minister Simmons has said, and 4.47, you're expressing some concerns, but it's kind of difficult to nail down the specific period as to when, or the specific period as to which houses not constructed, paid for but not constructed, the specific period to which that may have related. It's pretty wide a range, 2013, 14, 15.
All right, thank you, Chair. Well, in this case, some of these things started as far back as 2007-8, actually. And you would have
2000 we're not hearing you clearly.
2007-8, where okay, permission might have been given to build a house and the funds might have been transferred to rural. In one case, one was actually completed in 2020. So therefore, it actually covers a wide period. And in some cases, you know, some activity may not, as I said, yeah, 2020, and a couple of them were not built. Ms. King gave us a report in 2021, June 2021, which basically covered, brought us up to date in terms of all of these issues relating to the houses. So she might be in a good position to inform the board, the committee.
All right, thank you, Mr. Trotman. Ms. King, you're familiar with you've seen the report of the Auditor General?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I'm on page 62. That's where Minister Simmons was, and reading at 4.45. Audit personnel, along with representatives from the ministry, visited 34 locations to verify the houses approved to be built or repaired were completed. It was observed that in 8 cases, no houses were built. 3 of the houses not constructed were assigned to the UDC, the other 5 to the RDC. Ministry indicated there was 1 other house assigned to UDC, not visited by the auditors, that was not constructed. Can you shed any light on that for the members of the committee?
Thank you, Chair. I have a document that Mr. Lee would have referred to, if I can share it with the members. I don't know if that is there.
Go right ahead. It's a written copy, okay.
I don't know if I have enough copies. No, each is an individual copy of this document.
Chairman?
Yes, Minister.
Chairman, I have more of a procedural query. As I go through the report, Chairman, certainly from page 61 onward.
Your voice is fading.
I'm sorry, Chairman. I have a procedural query, if you would permit me. The length of this report is quite extensive. And when I say length, I mean it's period of time spanning that this report spans. So 2007 through 2018. And so this is really a question more so not for Mrs. King and more for the Auditor General. I think it would be important for us to have specifics as we go through the report on what is being reported on in terms of time period. So when I see here at 4.45, for example, let me start with 4.44. 4.44 says from the period of April 1st, 2007 to 31st of March 2018. That's the period that we're covering. But at 4.45, it says audit personnel along with representatives on the ministry visited 34 locations and so on. But it doesn't say whether this took place in 2009, 2017, and we need to have that level of clarity, Chairman, and if perhaps the Auditor General can provide that so that we can be in a better position to inquire.
Thank you for that.
Certainly, the visits were made in 2020.
Thank you for that, Minister Cummings. I think we're trying to address that why you stepped out a moment ago, when you stepped out a moment ago. Ms. King, I think, was attempting, there's a report. Does every member have a copy? How long will that take? All right, if you would, the marshal is going to get some copies for, I wouldn't want Ms. King to begin and you not have the benefit of a written copy in front of you. So we will wait for that as quickly as we can.
Chair, can I just interject here?
Yes, please.
Could a copy also be sent to me via email if possible?
That is so important. Could we have a copy emailed to Senator Trix as soon as possible, please?
Thank you, Chair.
So if you'll bear with us, Ms. King, because we don't want you to start and then members are lost and then they're asking you questions which you've already answered and that type of thing. So with the leave of members of the committee, we will just suspend perhaps for a few minutes while we get these copies. Is there anything else you need to have copied before you leave?
Chair.
All right. So with your leave, we'll take a few minutes of suspension while that is being done so you can have the benefit of the printed copy. Marshall. Colleagues, can we resume? And did you remember to email to Senator Drake? All right. All right, thank you. Ms. King, you want to go ahead?
Thank you, Chair. In relation to paragraph 4.45 of page 62 of the report entitled Report of the Auditor General for the year 2020, the paragraph speaks to the observation that 3 of the houses not constructed were assigned to UDC, 5 to RDC. The ministry indicated there was 1 other assigned to UDC not visited by the auditors that was not constructed. The report I would have offered to you, Chair, would outline the names of those 4 persons, and within that report outlines the facts based on what we have on our file and the resulting intervention that the Commission would have made in each instance. Would you want me to speak in detail to each matter?
Sorry, yes, Minister Husbands.
No, I was just wondering if the Auditor General's office would be sent this so that they could follow?
It's being sent to the Auditor General's office as well. We haven't had it before. We have not had this before.
I would have sent it to our parent ministry, Prime Minister's office, and I would assume, but I am not sure, that they would have forwarded it to the Auditor General's office.
Mr. Trotman, did you receive a copy of that status report and comments made on your report?
No, Chair, we have not received a copy.
Could you email it? Or we have it emailed to you.
Okay, thanks.
For these purposes, yeah, go ahead.
I am free to say the names of the individuals.
Yes, go ahead.
The first individual that would have been highlighted in the report would have been Pamela Otterton. The first intervention with the Commission with Pamela Otterton of 2nd Avenue, Richmond Gap, St. Michael was in October of...
A place familiar to me.
Pardon me?
Yes, that's fine.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm just wondering if that is appropriate. I think.
Call names.
Yes. Of recipients, not the recipients. Right, right.
Chairman, I would be more comfortable, Chairman, even if we were to use the address and the location to be able to differentiate between one property and the other, but I am hesitant about the idea, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, well, if the committee feels strongly
Yes,
about that,
we
please
do.
avoid the use of names. Just say as indicated in the report here.
Right. Thank you, Chair.
Very well, Chair.
All right, so go ahead. There are 4 individuals indicated, addresses given. Yeah.
Individual number 1 of Richmond Gap, St. Michael. The first intervention with that person would have been in October 2002. The first paragraph speaks to the request made by the Poverty Alleviation Bureau and the timeline during which that money was provided from the Bureau to the Urban Development Commission. It also speaks to the request made by the individual. And subsequently, in the penultimate paragraph of that same page,
Could you perhaps approach that a bit differently?
how would you prefer, sir?
We have time, you could probably do
Read.
a bit more word for word reading.
Very well.
Yes, I think so, for the record.
The first interaction by the UDC with this client was through a social investigation completed in October of 2002. At that time, the client required major repairs and bathroom facilities. The Commission received a letter from the Poverty Alleviation Bureau dated September 12, 2002, requesting assistance for materials for the completion of the house, with the client paying for the labor to complete the house. Another letter from the Poverty Alleviation Bureau dated July 25th, 2008 recommends a 3-bedroom house at a cost of $36,617.25. The Ministry of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment and Community Development at its meeting of number 2, 2009, held on 2009, the 4th of the 6th day, approved the funding in the amount of $63,617.25 to construct a 2-bedroom house. In August of the 20th, 2009, the Commission provided an update on this case to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Social Care and Constituency Empowerment, Urban and Rural Development, and to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, outlining concerns and reasons for the delay in the project. The report stated that in this case, and I quote, "The client reported that she did not request a house as approved by the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, but repairs. It was further reported that subsequent to her application, she commenced repairs on her house. The Poverty Alleviation Bureau was informed of the Commission's findings. The Commission should decide if it will proceed with repairs to the house and use the remaining funds for alternate projects. Once a decision was made, the Poverty Alleviation Bureau will be informed of the Commission's intentions and requested advice on reallocated projects." While the Poverty Alleviation Bureau was informed in a letter August 19th, 2009, a pending decision to either proceed with the repairs or the use for alternate projects was to be made and shared with the Poverty Alleviation Bureau. A request for the costing of the materials was made by the Poverty Alleviation Bureau dated April 16th, 2010. The client's needs were reassessed on January 8th, 2012, and a well was subsequently requested. The Commission completed the requested work and provided a new well, manhole, and associated pipework and ancillary work, which was completed 2012 at a cost of $6,350.
All right, any questions on this first instance?
My question,
Richmond.
my question, Mr. Chairman, is just to get clarity, is this supposed to be one of the sites visited by the Auditor General in pursuant of the paragraph 4.45?
In a position to answer that, Ms. King? Is this one of the sites?
I would not be in a position to
Visited?
answer whether or not the Auditor General
Your
visited.
General's
Mr.
on
Trotman,
particular-
are you in a position to say?
Yeah, our officers did visit that site.
And as your understanding, Mr. Auditor General, was that this, at the time of your visit, was one of them where, just going back to the language used in 4.45 to get some clarity, this is one of the 8 cases that you were referring to?
Yes, this is one of the 8 cases.
This would have been a UDC house. Yeah?
Yeah, we visited on the
No.
16th, but my officers visited on 16th of January 2020.
You visited on 16th January 2020, but would this have been classified by you in your paragraph 4.45? You have some as RDC, some as UDC. I only see
Right.
poverty alleviation being mentioned in this particular thing, so I wasn't sure how this, where this fell.
Right. This fell under the UDC.
This fell under the UDC.
Mhm.
Okay. And you would, and if it is one of the 8, then it is one of those that would be treated as fitting into this category. I'm just quoting you now. In 8 cases, no houses were built. That's basically what you are referring to?
Right.
With this particular one at 2nd Richmond?
Right, exactly. Yes.
Okay.
All right, Ms. King. My understanding here, reading this, is that this client had asked for assistance with repairs.
That is my understanding as well.
Somewhere along the line, a decision was taken to build, not repair, to build a 3-bedroom house
Yes,
at a cost of $63,000.
that is what the notes reveal, yes, sir.
Subsequently, investigation suggested that a two-bedroom house, not a three, was built for the same amount of money, $63,000. This is what I'm gathering from this.
That is what was recommended. However, our file suggests that the client repaired or replaced the house on her own accord. It's therefore a private residence. And subsequent visits to the property revealed that the only assistance she needed at that time thereafter would have been a well and associated pipework, manhole, etc., as noted in the last paragraph.
At a value of $6,350.
Correct.
But would you be in a position to advance an explanation as to why the Poverty Alleviation Bureau would have been recommending a three-bedroom house to be constructed to cost $63,000 in response to a client who simply asked for some help with repairs?
No, Chair, would not be able to respond in relation to the decisions made by the Poverty Alleviation Bureau.
The $6,350 would have been advanced from the Poverty Bureau or from Urban itself?
This would have been a portion of the money that would have been advanced from the Poverty Alleviation
So
Bureau.
the money came from Poverty Alleviation. Urban was doing the work.
Correct.
Yes. Question? Yes, go ahead, Minister.
Chairman, I have a question. Is it clear, I'm seeing here that monies were approved in 2009, but I'm troubled, and this is more a question on the operations of the PAB and how we treat to the question of poverty alleviation by definition, because, Chairman, I'm concerned that the initial request came in 2002 requesting assistance. The second response that we're seeing here was in 2008 with a recommendation for the construction of the house. And then we saw approval of funding in 2009. So we already have a period of 6 or 7 years there intervening in the first instance. And then the entire process doesn't culminate until the actual request for materials was done in 2010. And by definition, if we're talking about an entity that is responsible for responding to persons who are dealing with poverty and alleviating that poverty, this is an extremely long period of time. And the funds were allocated since 2009, even though that was a long period of time. Could you give an account as to why that would be the length of time we would be taking to respond as an agency to people who fall under the umbrella of an entity dealing with poverty alleviation?
I can only respond, ma'am, to the information relating to the Urban Development Commission and not the Poverty Alleviation Bureau.
I had anticipated, Ms. King, that might be your answer, and I wanted, if I could, just to go a little bit further than Minister Cummings has done, and just to ask you whether, in your experience with the UDC, you have seen similar instances of a protracted delay. And this is not to put you on the spot, but this is to speak to a systemic issue. The minister is rightly pointing us in the direction of a gulf of time between administrations. I can take a little pressure off of you and say to you, I've seen in my constituency applicants who have been waiting on a department of government, for example yours, National Housing Corporation is one that comes to mind, for over 20 years for a solution. So my concern as a representative of people is, would you agree, first of all, that there's a frequency to this kind of problem? And if so, what systems are you all working on to implement in order to correct this situation?
I would agree that there is a frequency to the length of time in some instances where assistance is offered or intervention is offered by government agencies. In relation to your latter half of the question that speaks to what systems we're putting in place, we usually try at the Urban Development Commission, that is the agency I can speak of, to have those persons prioritized who provide us with the information in a timely manner. Well, for example, in an instance where a house is to be rebuilt or a well is to be dug, it is important to do our due diligence and ensure that landlord permission is available for those instances. It is not in every case where there is a matter of extreme poverty where persons have all their documentation for land issues. And while with every instance we would try our best to assist, we cannot go on property that is not owned by the landowner and, for example, proceed to provide a waterborne facility or reconstruct a house without the appropriate documentation to proceed in that way.
I accept that. Are your files digitized, ma'am?
Not at this time, we're in the process of doing so.
Okay.
Would you be in a position to state who would have been in charge at Urban in your position in the critical years of this matter? Would you know?
Which year would you reference?
The critical
Chair.
years here, 2008 to 12. July 25th, to it recommends a 3-bedroom house at a cost of $63,000. We all down to 2012 before she finally gets some money to help repair a well, to dig a well and do some associated pipe work.
But Chairman, if I could go a little further than where you have gone, I would like to be able to get a sense of when the commission actually did this work, because I can see here that the needs were reassessed on January 8th, 2012, but it doesn't tell me, given the length of times that we're dealing with above, it does not tell me when the actual work was completed in 2012. Was it done in the same January? Was it done in December of the same year? Could you give a timeline on the completion of that work, please?
In relation to your question, Chair, and who would have been the director in 2009, the director in 2009 would have been Mr. O'Brien Trotman. The director that would have dealt with this project in, for example, 2012 would have been Mr. Derek Allen. There would have been directors in between those two persons. In response to the question by Minister in relation to when the work was actually completed, or at least started or completed? Completed? The work was completed May 2012, and it was started in May of 2012.
Chair,
Yes, Mr. Minister Husbands.
Yeah, I just wanted to just get some clarity here. You say in August 20th, 2009, the Commission provided an update to the PS of the Ministry of Social Care and to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau outlining the concerns. And then in the paragraph after the reported text, it says, while the Poverty Alleviation Bureau was informed of a letter dated August 19, a pending decision to either proceed with the repairs or use of the funds for alternate projects was to be made and shared with the PAB. Now, I was just wondering about I was just wondering about the dates One said August 20th and the other said August 19th. It's just a small point. I'm just trying to clarify.
Email a copy to Minister Cattle. While you're looking for
Okay,
that, Ms.
no-
King, we
not to worry.
welcome Minister Cattle to the meeting. Just joined us.
Not to worry.
Please
Um,
ensure that the document is emailed to Minister Cattle as well.
Not to worry. You can always give me that later. I see it's taking a little time. Last question. My concern here is that 6,350 was actually paid. Is it that the Auditor General cannot account for the remaining balance that was allocated for the house, and this is why this is here, or were
Mr.
the
Trotman,
monies
can you
properly
respond to that?
found?
Was your concern the fact that out of 63,000 as was originally projected, 6,350 would have been paid? Is your concern the fact that the balance could not be accounted for? Is that the concern?
Well, yes, that was, my concern was the balance, and I think that one of my officers had a meeting with Mr. King, I think, or discussion.
Not
on the-
hearing you clearly, Mr. Trotman. You gotta
You're not
lift your
hearing me
voice
clearly?
and slow down a bit.
Yeah, not hearing me clearly?
You
Can you
gotta
hear me
lift
clearly
your
now?
voice and slow down a bit, please.
Hear me clearly now? Yeah, the concern had to do with the fact that funds were allocated. A small bit of it was used, and the issue was what happened to the remainder.
All right, and the chairman, sorry, not chairman, the manager at the time would have been who then?
And 2009,
That's 2012,
in 2012,
yes.
in 2012, Mr. Derry Allen, to the best of my knowledge.
To the best of your knowledge. Okay, just one other question. I don't know if processes or procedures change between managerial heads, but normally, who would be the persons involved that we would need to speak to account for this? The manager, the accountant?
To account for this being the money that was
Yeah,
not
what
spent.
happened with the rest of the money? In other words, what's your sign-off procedure? Is there a projects manager? Is there a?
The funds are sent to the Urban Development Commission and would be held in the accounts of the Urban Development Commission.
Mhm.
The funds to provide the payments for the $6,350 would go through a process of project officer, senior project officer. At that time, the evaluation compliance officer would also sign to have the check prepared, as well as the finance officer and the senior project officer.
Okay, is it possible for you, or would it be more appropriate for Mr. Trotman to just give us the list of persons, because somebody would have had to sign off that that money went out and would not have been accounted for?
Mr. Trotman, this is addressed to you.
I didn't quite hear the question clearly, sorry about that.
Sorry, no, I was just asking for the procedure in terms of 63,000 is assigned, only 6,000 has been accounted for, but money's actually left the UDC. So who would be the persons in the train of the process that would have had to sign off that these monies would have left, including who might have been in charge of the project? Because I assume that that person would have had to say something to get the monies released. If you have the list of persons that you could provide to the committee.
Good evening.
I will let my officer, the desk officer, my auditor answer that one. But I would say though, generally speaking though, the issue that the audit was looking at was that a specific amount of money was assigned. Only a small portion was utilized, and the expectation would be that these funds would either be repatriated to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, or the Poverty Alleviation Bureau would reallocate it to another project. And this didn't occur, and that was our concern.
But the money is not there. It wasn't reallocated in a way that you could find, and the money was not there.
Well, when they say the money wasn't there, because I mean they have a pool of money and they have a bank account, so obviously the bank account doesn't specifically identify the $63,000. As I said, the issue was basically $63,000 was allocated, $6,000 was spent, and either you repatriate the difference to the bureau, or you get instructions from the bureau in terms of reallocation to a new project. And I'm saying that we didn't see that happening.
Okay, I'm not quite getting what's the problem.
It seems to be the problem is no evidence of the balance having properly been accounted for.
Right, and
No
I'm asking,
documented evidence of the balance properly being accounted for, Mr. Trotman, right? Is that correct, Mr. Trotman?
Yeah. So the issue was the balance. What to do with the balance?
okay, no, what my question was, if the monies remained in the accounts, but were not specifically assigned to another construction project, I'm asking if that was the issue, or if the remaining balance, the accounts were short of those remaining numbers, demonstrating that monies would have left, but there is no full house to account for the additional monies that left. That's what I'm trying to figure out, what is the exact issue.
I'm not too sure I can repeat
And I'll
that.
be clear.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I think that perhaps it would be helpful if we looked at page 63 of the report, where the point is made that the relevant files were not provided for audit inspection.
Precisely.
And I think that if Mr. Trotman was to elaborate on that, I don't want to do it for him, but my inference from that suggests that the Auditor General is not in a position to speak to what happened with the money, because he has not been or his staff have not been able to access the relevant files. The information is not within the knowledge of the Auditor General. Is that correct, Mr. Trotman?
Yeah, the only thing I would say is that my officer would have had a conversation with Ms. King on the 4th of June, 2021, and she would have indicated that the remainder of the money was not returned to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau.
So it wasn't returned, so it stayed within the UDC?
Yeah.
Okay, and it should have been returned?
It should have been returned or reallocated to another project.
Hmm? Well, I was checking with Ms. King to find out.
Any UDC?
It is not the custom
I think
practice.
I'm speaking in his language. Mr. Trotman is saying, according to his investigation, his officer's investigation, money was not returned to PAB, Poverty Alleviation Bureau. He did not say, as Minister Husbands suggested, that it remained with UDC.
The money has remained with the commission, still is at the commission, and it is not, as far as I'm aware, the practice of the commission in these instances to return monies that were unused from the UDC back to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, as far as I am aware.
So you're saying it remained with UDC,
Yes, please.
and you could properly account for it?
As far as I'm aware, Chair.
But there was nothing to assure Mr. Trotman's officers as to how it was properly accounted for?
I must admit, Chair, I do not remember being asked that question. I thought it was understood that if the money was,
Just to be clear, you were saying that the monies were properly accounted for at the UDC?
as far as I'm aware, Chair, yes. The monies remained at the commission.
All right.
Chair, can I intervene here for a second? There may be a little confusion here that I would like to
Please,
clarify.
please clear for us.
Yeah, when we say the money not properly accounted for, we were not suggesting that for some reason that the money was used for, or it disappeared or anything like that. The point is that the Poverty Alleviation Bureau allocates funds, and the funds that they allocate to the UDC or the RDC are supposed to be used for a specific purpose. If the money is not used for the specific purpose, then the money doesn't belong to the UDC or the RDC. The money is should be used for another project if the Poverty Alleviation Bureau so desires, or return. So that was the issue.
You're saying, Ms. King, that the policy at UDC is not to return such unused funds?
Chair, as far as I'm aware, in the year of 2012, when I was not director, I understand that the money would not have been returned to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau. I cannot speak to if it was reassigned, but that is my understanding at this time.
All right. Any further question on this, or you want to go to?
Chair, can I just interject here very
Yes.
quickly?
Please.
Just for clarity, because I understand the line of questioning. Minister Husbands went down. Sorry, let me turn on my video here quickly. So just for clarity, and we're talking about a balance because we said that about $63,000 was allocated. 5,300 was spent. So we're talking about a balance of about $57,000. Yes, Ms. King has indicated that that balance is within the financial records of the UDC. Is that correct? And can be accounted for in 2012?
Are you understanding the question, Ms. King?
Am I being asked if I am aware that the funds were available in 2012?
Are you?
Yes, and it is accounted for in the financial records.
I cannot answer that in 2012 the funds were allocated for. I do know that, as far as I'm aware, the funds were not returned, or were usually not returned, to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau. I can therefore assume that in 2012 the funds were still there. The balance of the funds were still there. I don't know if that answers the question clearly.
So then there's no financial record that the funds were actually there. We're just going on the assumption they weren't returned and they weren't reallocated, that they were there. That's correct?
There are always financial records available at the Commission which show what funds were available, and those records can be made available for the 2012 to prove that the funds were there.
So that you can make that available to us.
I can try my best to, sir.
All right, we'll be happy if you can do so. Senator Drake? Any further?
No, Chair. I think I am understanding the issue, and I think if those records are made available, then we'd have a bit more clarity of where this $57,000 was in 2012 and where it was allocated based on the discussions. Thank you, Chair.
Senator Cummings?
Thank you, Chairman. If I could also ask, in this instance, not only for the provision of those financial records for the period, but any documentation which you may have which would have affirmed the reallocation of funds, because I'm assuming that if the Poverty Alleviation Bureau is approving projects and allocating funds thereto, and there are monies that have been already sent over to the UDC or the RDC but are unused, that there has to be a reconciliation process, not just internal to the Commission, but between the UDC and the PAB. So if we could have access to any information that allows for us to have that reconciliation in place between the agencies, that would also be helpful. Are you aware if that kind of documentation exists?
I am not aware if it was existing in 2012. I would have to do my research and get back to the committee.
So if I can follow up, does it exist at this time?
Yes, it does, but please be aware that the Poverty Alleviation Bureau no longer provides funding to the Urban Development Commission at this time.
Just give us what documentation you can relative to the 2012 period. Can we quickly move on to client 2? Sorry, Minister Jordan, go ahead.
A question on this is more the accounting. In 2012, was there specific accounting for projects, for individual projects? So if there was a house to be done in Rose Hill, $50,000, was there a segregation of the funds, and then for that particular project, well, the wood from lumber company was X and the nails and...
There would be accounting for each component of materials cost, and there would be accounting for where the funds were sent from in relation to the receipt of the funds from the poverty alleviation, which account they would have been deposited to, which account would have been used to withdraw the money that would have been used for for example, 6,350.
So a follow-up to that, did you have separate, because I thought I heard the Accountant General, the Auditor General speak to a single bank account. Did you have separate bank accounts for different types of activity? This is in 2012? Do you know?
I wouldn't be able to answer that question with detail, but I can tell you what exists now.
Okay, yeah, sure.
So what exists now is that there is a fund or an account for the capital works projects, which are all of our capital works projects, and then there's another account for our current projects. Well, not current projects, but current activity within the commission. So there's a separation of the capital works and the current.
Okay.
There's not an account for each project.
Right, okay. I asked that question for ourselves in terms of what we could expect by way of information that you provide. Because if the funds are not segregated, then you may have to, and I'm not sure how granular that will be in terms of a statement of, what we call a statement change of a cash flow statement that could show, but it will show a global amount. And that's the reason why I asked if there were specific accounting, specific, not necessarily then bank accounts, but an accounting for house 1, an accounting for house 2.
There would be an account, or there would be information related to the costs associated with each project, but I do not believe that there would be a bank account specifically for each project. It would be a global account from which the funds are used for projects related to these matters. What specifically obtained in 2012, I cannot speak to with any detail at this time.
And just 2 quick questions, ma'am. So is it, just for clarity, first of all, is it your testimony then that the $57,000 and change are held within the global account of the UDC?
That is my understanding at this time, yes.
Okay. And secondly, can you assist us as to what would have been the reason for the relevant files not being provided for the audit inspection?
There is one instance where there was one file that I'm aware of that was not available at the time. I cannot answer as to why it was unavailable, but subsequent to the information coming to light that that was the case for one of the files, it was made available.
I thought I'd heard you say earlier, Ms. King, that information wasn't available to the auditors because it was not asked for.
The reference made was to whether or not the funds were still available at the commission. The balance. From my understanding, that was the question asked.
Can we move to the second client quickly?
The second client of Lickridge Village, St. Michael. The first interaction by the UTC with this client was through a social investigation completed in 2008, at which she requested house repairs. Funds in the amount of $16,982.25 was received. 61,000, my apologies. $61,982.25 was received from the Poverty Alleviation Bureau to construct a 2-bedroom house in April of 2009 at their meeting of 02/2009. In August of 2009, the Commission provided an update on this case to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment, Urban and Rural Development, and to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, outlining concerns and reasons for the delay in the projects. The report stated that in this case, a plot plan was needed. The client's landowner stated that she does not have the plot plan, and the Commission will therefore aim to provide one. The client was reassessed in 2009 and required major repairs on waterborne facilities. The technical assessment was completed and a recommendation for a house was made. While the Commission has received landlord permission, there are challenges with the house spot identified. The parcel is landlocked and has neither vehicular access nor landmarks on the site. As mentioned previously, the Commission, in trying to facilitate this client, has requested a land surveyor to provide a plot plan, which is outstanding.
This is another case as intimated by Minister Cummings of a long protracted delay in following through, having had a first interaction in 2008. Because of the issues with the land, still in 2019, the matter was unresolved. That's correct, right?
The matter is still unresolved, sir. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Any questions? Minister Jordan, Minister?
One question, Chair. This is a similar issue to client number 1. The house, the occupier indicated in this case, in this issue number 2, situation number 2, that she wanted house repairs. This is the second time, but let me not use terms like that. Like case number 1, in this case, the Poverty Alleviation Bureau indicated that it wanted to construct a 2-bedroom house. So the occupier is asking for repairs, then there's construction. What is the process? How do we get from repairs to a new house? What is the assessment that is done? The only assessment that I see here referenced is the social investigation. That social investigation, I think, captures the thoughts of the occupier. What happens between capturing the occupier's thoughts in the social investigation and the decision? I know you are not with the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, but are you aware of what happens between the capturing of the thoughts and the ultimate decision?
I can share with you what currently occurs at the Commission in relation to the process between the social investigation and the construction of the home, so you may understand a little better. After the social investigation is completed, technical officers would visit the home to provide a scope of works. In some instances, the client may believe that the house can be repaired, and they may think that that is the scope at that time. Our technical officers are highly trained, and they would identify what the true scope of works would be. In this particular instance, the house is very termite infested, and many of the siding boards and flooring boards are weak, and it has challenges with its structural integrity. Therefore, major repairs alone would not be beneficial to the investment made by the government. Where, for example, the repairs or major repairs advance to such an extent that it's in excess of 60% of the replacement costs, it is our technical opinion that you should proceed to replace the house with a new house, as opposed to invest sums that would go toward the costs associated with a new house. Therefore, in many instances where clients may believe major repairs are acceptable, there are technical components that would require costs associated with a new house, and a new house would therefore be recommended, for example, to the client or to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, which would have been provided at that time by the technical assessment.
So in some instances, repairs be a waste of time, waste of money. It's better to provide it. Senator Drakes and Minister Cattle, any questions and comments? Minister Simmons? Can we move
Not
to
at this time, thanks.
Minister Cattle?
No, I was just indicating at this time.
Could you move to client 3 quickly?
Client 3 of Smith Road, St. Michael. The first interaction by the UDC with this client was through a social investigation for the pit eradication form completed in April of 2007. At that time, the client required major repairs and bathroom facilities. Poverty Alleviation Bureau approved the financial assistance for the family in the meeting of Poverty Eradication Committee at its meeting of number 5 of 2007, held on 2007-09-20 for the amount of $66,735.75 for a 2-bedroom house. In August 20th, 2009, the Commission provided an update on this case to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment, Urban and Rural Development, and to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, outlining concerns and reasons for the delay in projects. Unfortunately, this case was not included in that report. Landlord permission was received in 2015, and a technical assessment was requested, which was completed in April of 2015. The UDC board approved the construction of a 3-bedroom house at a cost of $85,000 in January of 2020. The main contractor commenced construction and received a first payment of $12,750 in March of 2020. The contract was completed in July of 2020. The total project cost was $94,490. The client signed the key transfer form in October of 2020.
Any comments on those, that report with respect to that case, Mr. Trotman?
No comment, sir.
Sorry?
In terms of, I think I can make a general statement here. In terms of the audit was looking at a number of issues. Efficiency was one of them, and Ms. King does speak of the length of time it takes from the start of a project to the end of a project. This started in 2008 or so, and it finished in 2020. The other problem that we had was access to information and clarification on issues. And I think in future, if we get the access to information and clarification, some of these matters might not necessarily even reach the committee. So I would appeal to people like Ms. King to, make sure that they provide us with the necessary information and files, so that we, don't have to even go through a process where it may not necessarily be a major issue at this particular point in time.
Mr. Simmons?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I just want to raise a concern. And Ms. King, I don't in any way try to hold you accountable, because it began long ahead of your beginning your tenure. 2007, this matter would have attracted the attention of the Poverty Alleviation, and we were dealing at that time with an estimate of what would have been a 2-bedroom house at $66,000. It then subsequently morphed into a 3-bedroom at $85,000. Ended up being a project that costed $94,490, $30,000 more over the period of time. And I am just mindful of the fact that every time we have these delays, the penalty to the public purse becomes increasingly heavy. And I think that what we are reflecting here is a systemic failure and some inefficiencies that go beyond just suggestions of impropriety. I think that we are talking now about systems. And what I would want to hear you speak to a little bit more is the work that is being done at UDC with respect to improving your systems and enhancing efficiency in the way in which these projects are undertaken and discharged.
True.
Minister, would you kindly be a bit more specific to which system? Would you like me to give you an example of what we do now, or it's a very broad question you've asked? Can you kindly be more
Well, I was
specific?
trying to give you the opportunity to speak to generally how you are trying to improve what is taking place at UDC. Okay, specifically, the issue here, as I indicated, would have been obviously there's a change in the specifications of the construction. I'm not going to invite you to comment on why it needed to be a 3 as opposed to 2. I suppose there's a good reason for that. But with the effluxion of time, obviously the cost of materials and so on it becomes more expensive. It seems a logical proposition to me that if you are able to get the interventions done swiftly, then you are probably going to save the public a little bit of money. We are looking at a period of, 13 years in this particular one. And I'm just wondering what you think in terms of now the things that UDC does. How do you think you can streamline your operations so as to be able to more effectively do the social assessments, more speedily do the work that is necessary to bring resolution to these challenges at lower cost?
One of the matters at the commission where we would seek to increase the efficiencies in relation to our records keeping and our sharing of information. As I would have mentioned before, landlord documentation and information is one of the matters that really has a delay associated with it in relation to the construction of new houses. And therefore, we have made partnerships with our sister agencies, our other government agencies, including the Barbados Revenue Authority, Lands and Service, etc., so that we can have information more readily available to us that may not be available to the clients related to landlord documentation, conveyances, etc. In those instances, as you would have mentioned earlier, we are also seeking to digitize our filing to ensure that things are more speedily advanced, and we are also creating databases at the Commission to ensure that we can track all funds associated project by project, and it is not only based within a file. In that way, we are increasing transparency across the board, and we are also ensuring that managers are held accountable for the timelines associated with projects. We do have concerns in relation to our contractors, our artisans. We're trying to assist them as well, and therefore, because they are not large contractors and they are indeed small contractors, we would try to hold their hands to get the projects done more quickly, but there are some challenges associated with using small contractors who may not have the resources the resources that larger contractors would have. In relation to documentation, we have approved our documentation and signage across the board from what it used to exist before, and therefore funds being allocated to specific projects are taken in more detailed and are further scrutinized than to ensure that all evidence and all of the information is placed on file. Recently, we would have also completed an assessment done by 3 independent quantity surveyors to show the costs associated with works, and this means we now have a better understanding of the market value and market cost of some of our materials, and therefore cost overruns or excessive costs would not come over our desks. We would have indicated that there would be an increased cost in materials, and therefore for our 1, 2, and 3 bedrooms, we have done the due diligence and ensure that those costs are now affordable, and that the monies used by the Commission is done so in the most effective manner.
How do you determine to whom construction of these houses go? How do you determine to whom the contracts for construction go?
The contracts for construction for new houses is selected by our board of directors for new houses, 1, 2, and 3 new bedroom houses.
But what is the criteria that they use briefly or broadly?
The criteria for the selection of contractors?
Yeah.
Those contractors would usually provide to us their certificates of incorporation, their TAMIS numbers, their evidence that they would have some experience with building new homes, as well as their letters of introduction. In many instances where contractors are new to the commission, they will be placed on smaller jobs. Persons who are experienced in the field would be placed on the construction of new homes. Our contractors list is reviewed as often as possible, and our board of directors under the tender subcommittee would usually choose those contractors to be assigned to those contracts for new homes.
Yes, Minister Jordan.
A question on this third situation, the fourth as well, or refer to the update of August 20th, 2009. My question is, how often is an update given? How often is an assessment done on the cases before the Urban Development Commission to assess where there are, if there's a plot plan missing, if the plot is landlocked, if there's a dispute with the owner? How often is this kind of assessment done?
The reference of August 20th, 2009 refers to a meeting that would have been held between the poverty alleviation, or at least a reference to a report that would have been on file between the Poverty Alleviation and the Urban Development Commission. At this time, the board of directors they meet on a monthly basis to provide, and we provide them with updates in a full monthly report to our board, and the commission officers meet on a regular basis to review cases across the board relating to the capital works programs.
All right, so given that this is a kind of a current report, the document, sorry, is a current document, but there's no reference to an assessment being done since 2009.
A social assessment?
No, well, sorry, the update. The commission provided an update. So I'm not seeing, for example, that in 2012 or 2013, there was another update that gave this other particular information on the particular case of Smith Road. Because I heard the Auditor General to say that there's a lack of information. And I'm wondering if this is part of the challenge, if it is that there's no documentation as to where are we on the house for Smith Road. You know, we know that we got notification April 2007, we knew what was said. We knew what was said further on in 2007, the decision, 2-bedroom. I don't see anything happening between 2007 and August 2009, and then there is no, in my understanding, any more information before 2015. As a matter of fact, even for 2015, I see landlord permission was received, but there is nothing that says that an update was given so that there was a global picture. So my question is, how does the commission keep track of progress on these individual cases so that an update could be given, whether it's oral or written?
I cannot speak to the frequency with which the reports were provided to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau in 2009. or the frequency between the period you would have suggested, which would be 2009 to 2015. I can't speak to that, given that I would not have that information. However, the Poverty Alleviation Bureau no longer provides funding to the commission, and this program is no longer in place. But we do have frequent meetings in relation to the projects at the Urban Development Commission. We have not only verbal meetings, we have meetings in relation to our monthly board meetings and our internal meetings, and we provide reports. We provide reports on file, and we also provide Excel spreadsheets and database reports on a regular basis to the board as well as to the management team.
Okay, so the board then now is able on a periodic basis, a regular periodic basis, to know that suppose it is Jordan from Rose Hill, the board receives information now periodically but regularly that would say we are now at Ring Bean, as the case may be. You have those updates now.
The board currently receives monthly reports on each in-progress case at the commission.
Okay.
They would have a monthly report on what has been completed, what is to be started, and where it would fall in the pipeline.
Okay.
All right, could you go to client for Ms. King?
Client 4 of Whitehall St. Michael. The first interaction by the UDC with this client was through a social investigation completed in July of 2002. At that time, the client lived in Clarksland, Medford Road, Whitehall, St. Michael. The Ministry of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment and Community Development, at its meeting of 5/2007, held on the 2007-09-20, approved the funding in the amount of $69,673.24 to construct a 3-bedroom house. The funding was received by the Commission in 2007. In August 20th, 2009, the Commission provided a status report on this case to the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Social Care, Constituency Empowerment, Urban and Rural Development, and to the Poverty Alleviation Bureau, outlining concerns and reasons for the delay in the projects. The report stated that in this case, a plot plan was needed. The Commission conducted a site visit with the surveyor, who would have sought to obtain a plot plan. The Commission is also awaiting a copy of the landlord permission from the Poverty Alleviation Bureau. The client lived on rented land, and received landowners' permission. However, due to the challenges with the recommendation located at Clark's Land, Medford Road, Whitehall, St. Michael, the house was constructed at Simpson Land, Belmont Road, St. Michael. The contract for the work, dated June 17, 2015, was signed for the contract sum of $74,000, with the first payment of $11,160 for the project being received by the contractor on the 19th of June 2015. The contract end date was the 12th of October 2015. The house construction was completed with the last payment being received on September 4th, 2015. The total cost of the house, plus the well, termite treatment, and ancillary works, was $82,933.86. The client signed the occupancy agreement to the house to be allocated on the 11th of September 2015.
All right, thank you again. We have the protracted delays. We have the increasing costs. I think the reasons for that, notwithstanding the deficiencies in the system, the reason for that is quite clear. Any question or comment on this last client's case? Senator Drakes, Minister Cattle, I don't see anybody in-house asking for the floor. All right, Ms. King, please, documents that you have to which you have access, which you think might help us in further understanding of these matters, we will be happy to have them, as you indicated you would provide earlier. Documents to which you have access, yeah, that can help us. We would appreciate having that. Any last question for Ms. King? Anybody, any last comment? Let me thank you, and please ensure that we get those documents if possible. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you, and have a good evening, everyone. Thank you, and same to you.
Colleagues, Ms. King is the only witness available to us today. We will follow up on Mr. Armstrong, is he?
Yes.
And see what is the situation there. We also have to call Mr. Pollard of the Project Coordinator, Poverty Alleviation, and Jacqueline Hanaway, Field Investigator. We'll try and do so for next Friday, if that is your mind. That we meet again, God willing, next Friday at the usual time of 2 o'clock. Unless there's a further comment, I wish to thank you and ask for motion to adjourn. Thank you, Mr. Trotman and Cassandra Harewood from the Audit Office, Minister Cattle, Senator Drake's online, Parliament staff here, Ministers President Jordan, husbands Simmons, and Minister Cummins. Thank you all for your participation. Move to adjourn. Second, all in favor, that's carried. Thank you. That's fast.